Gun violence. It's a big topic. It's a very controversial topic these days. How can we affect the change in the level of gun violence? Let us stop looking at the guns as being instruments of evil and instead consider what goes into committing a gun-related crime. When you take your eyes off of the gun, you see people, the location, and the circumstances that are involved in the crime. These facts that will matter. Guns have many purposes, and our constitutional right cannot be infringed upon. But making an impact on gun violence can be done without attacking the gun industry. Distributors are the rights of citizens who wish to own them. Is gun control legal? What does the Second Amendment actually say? I'm going to quote this. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That is directly from the Constitution. What does that actually mean? What do some of these words mean? People get confused and try and rearrange what this amendment actually means. What is a militia? A militia is a part of the organized armed forces of a country that is liable to call only in emergency, a body of organized citizens for military services. What is infringed? To encroach upon a way that violates law or the rights of another. Should we consider what the safety and military climate was at the time that the Constitution was written? The safety and military climate of the time was destined to change, simply because nothing ever stays the same. The framer of the Constitution knew that, which is what led to the very direct, unequivocal text of the amendment. What was considered unambiguous when the Constitution was written has become a hot-button controversy, much for the country. I believe that this has more to do with the deterioration of our use of language and vocabulary than it has to do with the wording of the amendment itself. People, look into words differently and think of things differently now because a lot of words have changed in meaning, slang words and stuff like that. The military climate at the time was one of instability and limited quantity. There wasn't a lot of people. They tried to get a lot of people to join the military by promising them money or land or stuff like that. They faced the problem every day that they did not have the ability to build a military force strong enough to protect the country, as well as understanding from the experience that power corrupts and that a body of people not only had the right to hold its officials accountable, but also the responsibility to do so. This is spelled out explicitly in the excerpt from the Declaration of Independence. This is a quotation. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate the government's long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. Accordingly, all experience hath shewn that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty, to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. What is the purpose of gun control? Is the gun violence rate really that bad? It depends on how you look at gun violence. The numbers can speak for themselves, or so some people say. Some quick facts. to put into some perspective, total number of guns owned in the United States is 270 million to 310 million. Out of those guns, privately owned rifles in the U.S. is 110 million. Privately owned shotguns in the U.S. is 86 million. I'm sorry, I keep saying million. 86 million. Privately owned handguns in the U.S. is 114 million. Military firearms are 2,700,000. Police firearms are 1,150,000. What kind of gun violence are we talking about? There are different types of gun violence. And a lot of the gun violence in the news, mass shootings. Number of gun deaths in 2004 was 29,569. In 2014, it was 33,599. Gun homicides in the U.S. is 2004 was 11,624. In 2014, it was 10,945. Handgun homicides in the U.S. 2004 was 7,286. In 2014, 5,562. Long gun homicides in the U.S. in 2004 was 910. In 2014 was 510. So it went down a little bit. Gun suicides in the U.S. Now these are big things. These are part of gun control. These are accidents that happen with guns. They are not mass shootings. They're just, people taking their own lives. 2004 is 16,750. In 2014, it was 21,334. So over the 10 years, the amount of gun suicides in the U.S. has risen quite a bit. Unintentional gun deaths in the U.S., accidentally shooting someone, hunting accidents, or a little kid getting a hold of a gun inside their house and not knowing how to use it, and it just accidentally goes off. That can happen as well. 2004, that was 649. 2014 is 586. So it has gone down. People are being more careful with their guns, being more safe, locking them up like they're supposed to, and keeping the ammunition separate. Number of licensed gun dealers in the U.S. In 2005, there was 106,432. In 2015, there was 139,840. Gun dealers are being targeted in the gun control. A lot of people want them to be held accountable for who they sell their guns to, and it can be hard. Can gun control actually prevent gun-related crimes? I believe no, they cannot. It's quite difficult. There are federally required background checks on purchases of weapons from stores and such like that. It is impossible to use the background check to stop dangerous people from getting their guns. If they can't buy them, they will steal them or borrow them. People may not know that they are dangerous or mentally unstable. They could get their gun from a friend. We need to do a better job at identifying these unstable people to stop them from getting access to these guns. What is the purpose of gun control that doesn't work? Legal reasons gun control won't work. You cannot regulate the sale, gifting, or loaning of every gun in America. It's impossible. There's no way to do this unless you take everyone's guns from them all at once. Everybody has to turn in their guns. Even then, there's always a way to get a hold of a gun. I mean, if, for an example, the Prohibition, all alcohol was banned, everybody found a way to get it. Moonshine. People would produce alcohol and distribute it to people just by using stuff that naturally is there. So there's a way to sneak guns. There's always a way to get a hold of guns. You can limit the sale age, but there's traditions that go back generations that will always trump the law. hunting with your kids, sons going out hunting with their fathers and shooting their first deer. People who live off their land need these guns to help shoot the animals so that they can feed their families and things like that, or to protect themselves. Some areas of rural America believe that there's only one way to protect themselves, by having a gun. And dialing 911 on speed dial is not part of being protected, because by the time they arrive, the crime's over with. It's done. You could be injured or hurt or worse, dead by the time somebody comes for help, because it takes them a while, especially in big cities, lots of traffic, or even in the country. If you live miles and miles away, it takes them a little while to get to you. So having protection for yourself, having your own gun, a lot of people depend on that to protect themselves from intruders or robbers or things like that. Illegal reasons gun control won't work. Gangs don't buy guns from merchants. They don't just go to the store and buy a gun. They all get their guns illegally. A lot of them do, and they take off the serial numbers off the gun so that they can't be traced. Convicts don't buy guns from merchants. When convicts get out of jail, they're not allowed to have guns. A lot of them will go on the streets. You can go on the streets and buy a gun. Go down the corner, see the guy standing there. He can get you a gun anytime you want, and it's illegal. Drug dealers, hitmen, car thieves, serial killers, murderers, bank robbers, terrorists, these people don't buy their guns from merchants. A lot of times they can't be traced. If they're smart enough to think these crimes out, then they're smart enough to know that they can't have a gun that's going to be traced back to who bought it, when they bought it, where they bought it. That would just be silly on their part. That's a dumb criminal. Why is it so hard to effect change with gun control? If your sweet cousin Mary knows that a gun is purchased legally, can be traced, do you think she would buy a gun intended for use in the commission of a crime from a merchant? No, she's not. If you've ever seen a scene about the ballistics report on a law or crime show, then you know that guns can be traced. Limitations on sales only work if the manufacturing and distribution can be controlled. But it can't, because I could walk outside into my garage. Anybody could walk into another room if they have a gun cabinet that's locked up, and build a single-use gun that can fire up to 5 rounds before destruction and leave very little, if any, trace of existence or possession of it. I have a friend who builds guns, and he's really good at it, and he makes his own ammo as well. I could go to him and have him make me a gun. It's not a registered gun. It's probably not a legal gun. But, that's how these people get hold of their guns. It's not all about the guns. Guns don't kill people. People kill people. Okay? That's the difference. There's no way to control the ability to possess a gun if you can't even control the ability to create one. What kind of gun control might work? I think we need to stop looking at the guns and start looking at types of ammo. Start looking at the people. The people is the big thing. People are the ones who control these guns, who get their hands on these guns. They're the ones who kill these people, want to kill these people. We need to figure out a way to control who gets guns and how they get them. Hold the people accountable for the guns. It's not the gun's fault that it was fired. It's there. It's an object. It has no control over itself. People control the guns. References that I used for this. Merriam-Webster.com dictionary. Used an article from Bloomberg Business on the gun control and the Constitution about the Second Amendment. I went to BBC.com, BBC News website for America's gun control. And I also used LATimes.com for gun control isn't the answer. Those are my 3 references that I used for this video. I hope this helps everybody on gun control and realize that it's not the guns, it's the people and how they're distributed and how they're bought.